He is one of the most gifted racing drivers of his generation. He regularly drives a Formula One car at over 200 miles per hour. He has admitted, on a podcast, that he is more scared driving on public roads than he is in a race car. His collection has 16 cars. His favorite one broke down immediately after his first Grand Prix win. Fans had to push it down a Monaco hill to get it started. He called it Mega. That is the story of Lando Norris's garage. The genuine article. Many Formula One drivers own expensive cars because expensive cars come with the territory. The manufacturer gives you a vehicle, the sponsor sends a delivery, the team arranges something for the paddock. Ownership becomes passive. You arrive in a car someone else chose and drive it to a race someone else organized. Lando Norris is not that kind of collector. Since joining McLaren in 2019 as a 19-year-old, he has built a collection of 16 cars with a personal intentionality that's set from the typical F1 paddock garage. He has sold some recently, bringing the number down to 16. But what remains is a collection that tracks his career almost precisely. From the first small purchase made with his own money to the Italian classic he considers the most meaningful thing he owns. Every car tells a story about a specific moment, and the stories, taken together, build a portrait of someone who loves cars with a depth that the sport does not always produce. The Fiat Jolly. The first one. The first car Lando Norris bought with his own money was not a McLaren or a Ferrari. It was a 1972 Fiat 500 Jolly Evocation, a light blue, open-topped replica of the famous Ghia beach car, with wicker seats and an engine producing around 15 horsepower. He drove it around Monaco. Its engine struggled up the hills for which Monaco is known. His McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri was spotted driving it too, apparently borrowing it without ceremony. It was, by almost every objective measure, completely unsuited to a city built on gradients, and yet Norris used it as his primary Monaco runabout with apparent delight. He sold it through an online auction in late 2023, where it fetched £32,000, a car that cost a fraction of anything else he owns, bought as his first personal automotive purchase and sold when the collection had moved on. The Jolly was not a statement. It was something simpler than that. A young man arriving in Monaco with money in his pocket for the first time, buying the car that made him smile the most. That instinct, above everything else, is what has shaped every decision in the garage that followed. The Rolls-Royce Wraith. The honest admission. Not every car in Norris's collection was the right choice, and to his credit, he has said so publicly. The Rolls-Royce Wraith arrived at some point in the early years of his McLaren career, a 300,000-pound Grand Tour that represents everything a young Formula One driver is supposed to own. Large, luxurious, unmistakable. The car you buy when you want people to understand that you have arrived. Norris's response to it, delivered on a podcast, was characteristically blunt. "I hate it. I'm more scared on the road than I am in a race car." He elaborated separately, describing the specific experience of being recognized at traffic lights, being challenged by other drivers, being filmed in his race suit trying to drive normally in a supercar, and finding the whole experience genuinely stressful. A man who spends his working life managing overtaking moves at 180 miles per hour, intimidated by a Monday morning in Monaco. The admission is the most revealing thing he has said about his relationship with cars. He does not drive because it makes him feel powerful on the road. He drives because he loves the machines themselves. The road, with its unpredictability and its other drivers and its eyes on him wherever he goes, is the difficult part. The car is the point. The Wraith taught him the difference. It is unlikely to be the car he misses most. The McLaren 765 LT Spider. This is me in a car. 18 months before collecting it, Norris had begun the design process with McLaren Special Operations, MSO, the Bespoke division responsible for personalized vehicles. The project ran through meetings, material choices, color decisions, and detail refinements across a year and a half of collaboration with the team he races for professionally. When he finally collected it from the McLaren Technology Center in Woking, he was received by staff with the covers pulled off in an F1-style reveal. The specification he had arrived at said everything about his aesthetic: a gloss blue tint visual carbon fiber exterior, Lando yellow brake calipers, the same yellow from his helmet, 4 vertical stripes on the door, referencing his race number, his LN4 initials embroidered on the headrests, an interior plaque reading, "Exclusively commissioned for Lando Norris by MSO." The unique chassis number is a secret only he knows. "I've been able to drive a lot of different McLarens," he said at the reveal, "but this is the first car that I've designed. This is me in a car." He noticed that McLaren CEO Zak Brown had signed the engine bay during production, alongside other key staff. His response was immediate. "It's now gone massively down in price because Zak signed it." The 765 LT Spider is the car that marks the shift from Norris as a McLaren driver to Norris as something more embedded, a person whose identity and the team's identity had become intertwined enough to produce a vehicle together. One of 765 made globally, but the only one in the world to that specification. In that sense, genuinely irreplaceable. The Land Rover Defender, the car that shows who he is off-duty. The Defender project began over a dinner table conversation. Lando and several fellow F1 drivers were talking about the Land Rover brand and what they loved about it. Shortly afterwards, he sent a message to Retro Automotive, a Yorkshire-based restoration company, and the brief began to take shape. He wanted it totally topless. No roof, no uprights, seating for 6 people. What started as a restoration of a 2001 Defender 90 became a major custom build that reportedly involved more than 1,000 hours of labor. The car was stripped back to bare chassis, rebuilt around an original 3.9-liter Rover V8, finished in a color inspired by a specific McLaren shade Norris had admired, and fitted with personal details including his own logos and a color scheme that connected the vehicle to his professional world without being overwhelmed by it. The finished car has a removable Marshall amplifier mounted on the rear. It can also accommodate a pizza oven. That detail, a pizza oven, in a car commissioned by a Formula One driver, captures something genuine about Norris that the racing coverage does not always reach. The same person who spent 18 months designing a one-of-one McLaren with MSO also specified a custom Defender with no roof, 6 seats, a Marshall amp, and space for pizza. Both choices came from the same instinct. Build it the way I actually want it, not the way anyone would expect. The Shelby Cobra 427, the purist's choice. On the streets of Monaco, Norris has been spotted multiple times in his 1965 Shelby Cobra 427, often at night. A 427 cubic inch V8 in a car that weighs almost nothing, with no driver aids, no traction control, no electronic safety net of any kind. Just the driver and the road. Goal.com US. For the 2024 British Grand Prix at Silverstone, Norris arrived in the Cobra, but not in its standard blue with white stripes. He had chrome-wrapped it entirely for the occasion. A classics car turned into a mirror finish. The same car, the same engineering, the same raw mechanical character, with enough visual drama to turn every head at the home Grand Prix of the most prominent British driver on the grid. The Cobra is the car in his collection that makes the least obvious sense on paper. He finds public roads intimidating. The Cobra is one of the most demanding public road cars ever built, and yet it is the vehicle he returns to on Monaco evenings, driving through the Principality in the dark, apparently undisturbed by the contradiction. Perhaps that is the point. On a Monaco side street at night, there is no media, no race suit, no pressure, just the car. And on those terms, the Cobra makes complete sense. The Lamborghini Miura, the one that means the most. On the Quadcast podcast, Norris was asked how many cars he owned and which was his favorite. He hesitated. Then he said, "My favorite, that means the most to me, is probably the car I am the most proud of. It's my Lamborghini Miura." The Miura P400 is considered by many historians to be the world's first true supercar. When it was released in 1966, its mid-mounted V12 and sculptural Bertone body redefined what a road car could be. Only 762 were ever built. The story of Norris's Miura and its most significant moment began on the 5th of May 2024 in Miami. He won his first Formula One Grand Prix. Several days later, back in Monaco, he took the Miura out to celebrate. It did not start. Norris was stranded on a Monaco street in his favorite car on one of the best weeks of his life. Then the fans noticed him. They recognized the new race winner standing next to his broken-down Lamborghini, and they pushed the car down the hill to bump start it. "Maybe if I didn't win the race, they wouldn't have noticed me. They wouldn't have started it," he said. So those are the perks in life. People can bump start your car for you. In the Miura, that kind of thing. A world champion. 16 cars. His proudest possession broken down on a public road, returned to life by strangers who had just watched him win. What the garage actually tells you. Lando Norris became Formula One world champion in 2025 after years of near misses, podiums, and a reputation that outgrew the car beneath him for several seasons. The cars in his garage track that journey more honestly than any race result. The Jolly that could not climb a hill. The Wraith he admitted he hated. The McLaren he designed over 18 months and described as himself. The Defender with the pizza oven. The Cobra driven through Monaco after dark. And the Miura, his most prized possession. 612 cubic centimeters of Italian V12, push-started on a Monaco hill by fans who recognized the man standing next to it. His garage is not a display of wealth. It is not a sponsorship portfolio or a social media backdrop. It is a collection of cars chosen, and sometimes rejected and sometimes broken down by someone who loves them in the way that only genuine enthusiasts do. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but honestly. And that, for one of the most talented racing drivers of his generation, might be the most interesting thing about him. Subscribe to Drive Directive and tell us in the comments, which car in Lando Norris's collection do you think says the most about who he actually is?